Hi, I'm Zaphod Beeblebrox and I'm the British Tech Guru. Today I want to talk to you about something a little bit different. Yes, it is technology related. This, as I'm sure you're aware, is an LED light bulb. They use a little bit of power and produce light that really isn't that high quality. This is a compact fluorescent lamp which produces light of a higher quality than the LED bulb, but uses a little more electricity. This is the much maligned incandescent bulb, and that uses the most electricity of the lot. Now, the big complaint about this kind of bulb has been that a lot of the power is used as heat, and really and truly that's totally unimportant. Okay, I come from a colder climate, and as I see it, when do you use lighting? You use it in the evenings and after dark, when the sun has gone in and it's getting cooler, sometimes a lot cooler. So a little bit of extra heat does not go amiss. So the heating element, it doesn't mean anything. The real reason why 30 years ago incandescents were beginning to be phased out in favour of compact fluorescent, it was all part of a little bit of an underhanded deal. The big problem was that the power stations used a lot of dirty processes to make their electricity. And instead of taking the blame and cleaning up their processes, they blamed the consumer for using too much electricity. Well, there's nothing you can do about the amount of power used in cooking, which is the main user of electricity, that and heating, because there's nothing much you can do, and you're going to need the same kind of oven. They've tried different kinds of ovens, different kinds of cookers, and they might all be slightly different, but they all use about the same amount of power. You can have a halogen hob, an induction hob, and they all use around about the same amount of power to get the same effect and cook in the same amount of time. Even a slow cooker uses quite a bit of power. So they blamed the consumer for using too much electricity and said, your problem is you're using light bulbs. Well, yes, light bulbs are used, and we use them for, shall we say, 6 hours a day. In terms of cost, not very much, to be honest. And but the one thing I want to talk about, this incandescent light bulb designed by Thomas Edison was a simple thing. It contains glass, steel, a little bit of solder, which these days is zinc based, so non-toxic, tungsten, which again is non-toxic, and when this gets disposed of in a landfill, let's face it, 99% of things do not get recycled, and most plastics, even if they can be recycled, are not recycled. And all those plastic bags that people save, they just go off to Africa, because nobody can afford to recycle them here, and in Africa they just burn them. So this is pretty well 100% recyclable. It's glass, tungsten, steel, zinc, and I believe there's a chalk base inside here. So there's nothing there that is hard to recycle, and all of this will break down in the environment naturally. Okay, we move on now to the compact fluorescent, otherwise known as the mercury vapor lamp, because this tube contains a mercury vapor, which means that if one of these breaks, you have to ventilate the room and get out of the room until the vapor has gone, because mercury is highly toxic. Highly toxic. Do you remember Minamata Bay in Japan? That was mercury in the or mercury substance in the water, which poisoned just a whole load of people. And look up Minamata Bay disease. Now, the other thing about this is glass, mercury, which is a toxic substance, steel, a little bit of solder, which could be zinc, plastic. Now, of course, all of that is combined together. So recycling this is going to be a nightmare. Putting this in a landfill is equally going to be a nightmare, because the mercury vapor will escape when the tube breaks, and this plastic will never break down in the environment, and if it does, it will leach cyanide. Okay, so let us move on to the compact fluorescent. What do we have here? We do not have any mercury vapor. We do have a whole host of other nasty chemicals in the LEDs. Phosphorus is one of them. And we have a whole load more plastic. This will not degrade in the environment. These also burn out very quickly and very randomly. I have had these new out of the box faulty. I've had them die within a week, die within a month, and I have never had a successful LED bulb that will last as long as this bulb, which still works. This bulb is 20 years old and it gets used. This is probably 10 years old and still gets used. This is probably about 2 years old, gets used occasionally. Now, the big problem is recycling, and this is the problem, that a lot of these green things sound greener on the surface, but then when you're talking about recycling and end of life for this, just throw it in the trash. It breaks down naturally in the environment. These two will not break down naturally in the environment. They will pollute the environment for decades, perhaps centuries. And of course, nobody is ever going to recycle them because it costs too much to recycle. It's not very green. This green stuff is not very green nor environmentally friendly. And as I said, the origin of a lot of this green stuff was a scam by the electricity companies. Now, have you noticed? They're all saying electric cars now. Electric cars, electric cars. Where does that electricity come from? Power stations. Going to need an awful lot more generating capacity. That means nuclear, coal, gas, oil. Sure, they might be a little bit cleaner now, but they're still not that great. Oh, but what about solar and wind and water and wave? Yes. What about them? This is where green energy fails badly. It's just not possible to harvest enough natural green energy for all of man's needs. And if all the vehicles are going to go electric, that's a phenomenal amount of electricity that we're going to need. We're going to end up with brownouts and blackouts if we don't build more power stations. If we build more power stations, then we're back to the same situations before. So tell me this. Tell me this. With all these electric cars coming in, why is this incandescent bulb still bad?